Welcome to episode 2 of the story of, and here we are live with Manny Lagunes. Welcome back, Manny. I
Thank
know
you.
that last week we had some technical difficulties, so hopefully we have everything figured out. We were talking about your life, growing up in Mexico, and here on the story of, we want to make sure that we kind of capture everyone's story because I think everyone has a different story to share, and yours deals with deportation. We have not gotten to that. This is going to be a hell of a ride within 10 episodes to get to it and be able to tell your story. So, looking at where we left off with in the first episode of the story of, you were talking about how you were raised, your life inside of Mexico from ages 3 to 9. You want to continue to elaborate on that? Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we left off talking about how my story, right, was complex, complicated. And as you just said, I lived in Mexico from when I was 3 years old up until the age of 9. So I guess you could say this is sort of my upbringing, right? These years in anyone's life are very crucial to the way, again, they are brought up. I did go to school here for some of my elementary school. And I have to say, it's definitely a 180 turn as to what I went to experience in America as far as the schooling system, the education system. Granted, when I was here from those ages 3 to 9 years old, I lived with my mother and my younger brother. And that is sort of why I lived here in Mexico from the ages of 3 to 9. My folks got divorced, and my mom just wanted to sort of get away from that sort of I don't know what you would call it, just toxicness, right, of divorce. And so we moved to Mexico when I was 3 years old, and we were here up until the age of 9 for me, which for most people I would say would be around maybe the start of fourth grade, more or less.
So this is the time kind of where you learn how to speak English. And what was, I mean, obviously when you came over at a young age, you really didn't know much about Mexico, but you were learning to speak Spanish because your family speaks Spanish, and then you learn English inside of school up until about the fourth grade, until age of 9. And so, what was it like, kind of experiencing the United States of America from that aspect inside of those younger years?
Yeah, well, so it's safe to say, well, I guess I should say, that, from a very young age, maybe when I was a few months old, up until the age of 3, I did live in Detroit, Michigan, which I don't want to give too much information, but I believe that is where you are originally from as a black man. But when I came back to Michigan at the age of 9, we relocated in Ypsilanti, also in Michigan. Um, and I went to a small public school called Estabrook Elementary School. And again, I arrived there actually at the beginning of my fourth grade year in elementary school. I remember that clearly because uh, all these classmates, they had been raised sort of together, right? They all went to the same kindergarten, preschool, first through fourth grade. They had been in the same school in the same building, right? And I was sort of like this new kid. And I remember my first day there because everybody sort of gathered around my desk, and I can remember my mind being blank, because I didn't speak the language right away. And obviously they had no idea this kid just came from Mexico, right? Maybe like a week or two ago. So I was just sitting there, and everybody surrounded my desk, and eventually the teacher walks in. Mrs. Kingston was her name, and she figured it out. She brought the ESL teacher, the English as second language teacher, who uh, was I don't remember where she was from, but she spoke Spanish. So she spoke to me. We got it all straightened out, and quickly I sort of found my place, so to speak. Um, when I said earlier that life was sort of like a 180 turn, I mean that in every single way, especially in the school way, because schools here in Mexico, as far as I know, they have physical education. They have, the basics, math, literacy, which would be, I guess, the Spanish class or English class in America, history, social studies, et cetera, right? But when it comes to the social aspect of school, it's a completely different environment. One of the things I can tell you about it is that I sort of found the sport of basketball for the very first time when I was 9 years old in Ypsilanti in Estabrook Elementary School, because there were not many kids who played soccer, and I don't want to get into that stereotype of Mexicans playing soccer, right? But there weren't many kids at my elementary school that played soccer. So I had to sort of figure out, okay, well, they play basketball here, that's a sport and this and that, and sort of get into again finding my place. The lunch table aspect, sort of what you see in American movies and TV shows. Again, that starts at a very young age from elementary school. I think so. So I had to, again, just find my place where I fit in, who I would sit with, who I would talk with, who, I would stand in line with. Lunch schedules. Public schools here in Mexico, they don't provide hot lunch for students. So that was completely new to me. It's like, you guys are getting food for free? Like, hey, this is hot lunch provided by the school? Like, this is tight, And just, there's just so many things about it. If I have to be frank, for one, I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe the whole structure, the physical structure, the buildings are a lot nicer in America, if I have to say it like that. Not that they're shitty here, not that we're learning in some hut or something, but just the whole structure of the school is a lot safer. For example, most, if not all, schools here in Mexico are surrounded by 7, 10 feet brick walls so that no outsiders can come in, and there's one way in, one way out. That is heavily guarded from elementary school up until, well, I'm actually enrolled in college right now, and the college has that again, just a 10-foot brick fence, wall and a fence, so that in one way in, one way out. So just that security aspect, it makes you feel like, okay, well, this is a tense situation, but you're going to school, as opposed to elementary school in America. Granted, some things have changed since I was in elementary school, but it's like you are not having to go through a checkpoint to sort of prove who you are and what your business is there to do, or what you're there to do, right? What your business is.
Let me jump in there because I know that you say, you were introduced to basketball, and I've known you personally, and it's just unfortunate that you never got good at it. 'Cause as I played you inside the past, and that's another whole season of the story of about how I destroyed you. But on a serious tip, with inside of that time period, I know that you said that you crossed the border illegally once, and then you said that you had a second time. So tell me about both of those experiences of crossing the border illegally. What you remember, the trials and tribulations from those experiences.
Yeah, so exactly what you just said, right? It was twice that I actually sort of did the thing, went to America illegally. The first time I don't remember much. Again, I was a baby when I was a few months old. Up until the age of 3, I lived in Detroit. But the second time, when I was 9 years old, I was more than old enough to remember what it was. And what I can tell you was that first and foremost, my parents did it in the most discreet way possible. Meaning, they told me and my younger brother, well, my mom told me and my younger brother, we are going on vacation, is what they said to me. And if my mom watches this, I know she'll completely agree with it. She told us we're going on vacation. I said, oh, cool. Well, let me take this, and then she said, you can't take any of your toys, just because you'll probably lose them on vacation. Cool, whatever. We just pack up and go. To a certain point, my aunt actually sort of took us to what you would consider one of the border towns. And she left us there, and then I remember thinking, like, well, why is she going back? Like, and she didn't tell us, goodbye, and we'll see each other soon again. No, she said, have fun, this and that, cool. And then from there, it was very movie-like. So me and my brother was 6 years old at the time. I was nine. The first attempt was, as you can, if you want to call it, just the old-fashioned way, walking. We started walking. I remember walking desert miles for Lord knows how many hours. And eventually we did get stopped by immigration at the border. They were armed men, law enforcement on bicycles, just because of the terrain, right? And they detained us. They put us in what is a detention center. But mind you, I'm 9 years old. My brother is 6 years old, and we're in here with all these other people, sort of caged up like animals is a good way to put it. And I know we hear that a lot, especially in the news and with the last
How many people were there?
president. I can't I'm not able to tell you. I will tell you this though, there was not enough space for everybody to lay down comfortably. There was not enough space for everybody to lay down comfortably. There sure as hell wasn't enough food for everybody to go around because, again, we were literally caged like animals. You got to understand that at the border, law enforcement, immigration, whatever you want to call them, they tend to care less for immigrant lives. So they will treat you badly because who are you going to complain to? You know, you're not even supposed to be there in the first place. You know, so yeah, there was not even enough food to go around. We were only there for 2 days, and I might be highballing 2 days. And eventually they took us in the van and sent us back over to Mexico. After that, my mom, me, and my brother split up. And again, I did not know what was going on at the time. Looking back on it now, I know exactly what happened. We split up. Somebody took my brother, somebody took me, and my mom said, "We'll see each other soon." That soon became a period of about 3 months because my mom decided, you know what, my children can't go through this. My children can't, they won't make it through this. So me and my brother were sort of, we crossed the border sort of like smuggled packages.
Who split you up and why?
Well, the sort of the you could call them the people in charge, right? So you don't just pick up and go because, as we mentioned in the first episode, you can run into all kinds of people, organized crime, law enforcement, right, from both sides. So I guess if you want to give them a title, it would be sort of the organized crime that are in charge of crossing people across the border, getting people across the border. They split us up because at the discretion of my mom, she said, my children and I, they won't make it across the border walking. Granted, she decided that she would, so she took that route, the hard route. And me and my brother, we were smuggled, sort of in crevices and underneath the seats of cars and in trunks, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, I did get to meet up with my brother back again in a stash house, I would say, because there was nothing in that house. There was no furniture, no nothing in that house, and we were just sitting there with somebody watching us at all times. And again, I didn't know what was going on, but looking back on it now, it's like we were being smuggled across. It's not so much as just walking and hoping they don't catch you. It's like, okay, we have to get you across one way or another. Otherwise, this is our pay. Otherwise, it's our ass that's going to get in trouble. And we were being smuggled across for like a period of 3 months. We stayed with people from all races and shapes and sizes, man. One of the ones that had the most impact on me was when I finally made it to Phoenix, Arizona. And I still was not with my mom. It was just me and my brother being smuggled. We made it to Phoenix, Arizona, and they handed us to somebody else. His name is Kiko, or was Kiko. I don't know what happened to him, but he was your typical cholo man. Picture Fat Joe, big pun, right? In the old days, a big, just cholo guy, Latin man. And he was cool. He was cool with us, man. He had his own place, and I guess he had some ties and offered sort of to get us to another checkpoint, another spot where we would be transported. And we stayed with him for about 2 weeks. And I remember those were like the funnest 2 weeks that I had in a very long time because again, we had been in stash houses that were completely empty, dirty, or just sort of places that were like holes in the wall, not physically, but like just they were not what you would expect. So when we got to Phoenix, Arizona, and I saw all these things, and he had an apartment, and it was like a bachelor's pad. I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, we were having pizza for dinner and burgers for lunch and this and that. And we stayed with him for about 2 weeks. And again, this was after a period of like 2.5, 3 months um, that we got to him, to Kiko. And after those 2 weeks that we were with him, my mom finally showed up. She had made it across, with other adults walking and eventually being transported to Phoenix. But those were maybe the longest 3 months of my life. I won't say the longest, but one of the longest periods of my life.
So one more thing before we close out here on this episode. I'm just curious to know: was that the last time you saw this man? Is he somebody that's still in your life, or that you keep in contact with? I know that's probably unlikely because you were so young. And then the second part to the question, real quick, before we get out of here, because we're running a little over, is how was that difficult for somebody that young? Who was your caretaker? What did how did you see that growing up? Real quick.
So, so no, I don't have contact with that man anymore. With Kiko, I don't. I do remember who he was, and looking back on it now, what he was into, right? And I wouldn't be able to answer you that question because I remember being needy for so many things, being afraid, being cold, and not being able to complain, bitch, or even just again, I'm a child, 9 years old. I'm not able to speak out, say I'm cold because I would not get a response, or I would tell to be quiet, right? So I can't tell you how you would care for somebody in that position. I think the best answer I can give you is they don't. They're there to make their money. Their main priority is to get you across to the point that's understood, and that's it for your relationship with them.
All
They
right.
just see it as an opportunity
All
to
right.
make money.
So yeah, I mean that's interesting, and I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation on the next episode. We've covered a lot within the grounds of what you experience, the life over here inside the states, as well as the two times that you came over illegally and crossed the border. So we definitely want to delve into those older years, so we can kind of get to know you as you grew up before we get to the point of when you went through the process of being deported. So I just want to thank you for joining us here. I can't wait to be on the next episode and hear more about the story. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us on the story of Manny Lagunes. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Once again, as always, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, man. And I can't wait to seeing how this story develops, or by matter of fact, seeing how I'm able to express my story
All right. Well, everyone, take care. We'll see you next week.
later.